Maya's hands were still damp from scrubbing silverware when her eyes caught a line of text that didn't belong in any honest contract. She shouldn't have spoken. She never spoke. But when Jeffrey Hastings, Chicago's most feared underground power broker, reached for his pen, she stepped forward and murmured, "Sir, if you sign that, you're already dead." Jeffrey froze. Not because of the warning he'd heard threats his entire life, but because the maid shouldn't have known what she just said, and the fact that she did changed everything. Before we continue, I want to speak to you for a moment. If stories like this remind you that kindness still exists, if they make you feel something real in a world that's getting louder and colder, then I'd love to have you here with us. This channel isn't just videos, it's a tiny corner of the internet where good people come together, where we believe in second chances, in hope, and in humanity. And right now, you're early. You're part of the very first people building this family with me. So, if you want to grow with us, if you want more stories that touch your heart, go ahead and subscribe. It's free, it supports the channel more than you know, and it tells me that there are still people out there who believe in kindness just as much as I do. If you have subscribed to this channel, I can officially say, welcome to the family. The Hastings estate was the kind of place where silence felt expensive. Marble floors, cold chandeliers, imported mahogany, everything polished enough to reflect power back at itself. And yet, on most days, the house felt strangely hollow. The staff moved like ghosts. No one dared to speak unless spoken to. Because its owner, Jeffrey Hastings, Chicago's most feared real estate mogul with criminal whispers trailing behind him, was not a man who tolerated mistakes. Tonight, however, the house held its breath for a different reason. Maya Thompson hadn't meant to pause. She hadn't meant to look. She was just dusting the edge of Jeffrey's desk, same as every evening. Same small motions, same quiet obedience. But then the document left open on the screen caught her eye. Not the entire thing, just one sentence. One clause, a familiar one. Her blood went cold. Her hands went colder. Her past, buried, suffocated, sworn never to resurface, rose like smoke around her. "No," she whispered, eyes scanning the paragraph again. Faster this time. Heart pounding. "Not again." The wording was almost identical to the trap that had destroyed her life. The one that got her blacklisted, humiliated, pushed out of the legal world she once loved. The clause that wiped out her future with 3 signatures and 1 lie. She knew this structure. She knew the pattern. She knew the predator behind it. The Grayson Syndicate. Her fingers trembled over the page. Coercion disguised as partnership, penalties disguised as arbitration, a forfeiture clause that moved like a serpent through the contract's spine. If Jeffrey signed this, they wouldn't just take his company. They'd take him. "Miss Thompson." Jeffrey Hastings' voice cut the air like a blade. Maya jerked upright, every muscle locking. She spun around so fast she nearly knocked over the pen holder. Jeffrey stood in the doorway, jacket over one shoulder, tie loosened, dark eyes narrowing as they landed on her. She dropped her gaze instantly. I'm sorry, sir. I was just cleaning." "What are you looking at?" His tone sharpened. "Nothing. I didn't mean. Look at me." Her heart hammered. Slowly, unwillingly, she lifted her head. Jeffrey took a single step into the office. "You're pale." Another step. "What did you see?" Maya swallowed hard. She wasn't supposed to speak. She wasn't supposed to know anything. She was a maid. Invisible, replaceable. But this, she couldn't stay silent. Keeping her voice low, she whispered, "Sir, the clause in paragraph 18, it's a trap." His expression didn't change, but the air around him did. The room felt heavier, darker. "A trap?" he repeated. "Yes," she breathed. "And how would you know that?" "Because I used to be brilliant. Because I used to matter. Because I used to be someone." But she didn't say any of that. Instead, she forced steady words out of a trembling throat. "Because I've seen that clause used before. It's built to strip you of all leverage after an initial compliance review. The penalties alone would freeze your accounts. Within 6 months, they'll own everything." Jeffrey stared at her, not with anger, but with something far more dangerous: interest. He crossed the room in 3 strides, snatched the contract off his desk, and skimmed it. His jaw tightened a rare, telling shift. "My legal team didn't mention this," he said quietly. "I know," Maya replied. "And you?" he asked, voice dropping. "Noticed it instantly?" She didn't answer. Couldn't. Jeffrey's eyes lifted to her, sharp, calculating, assessing her like a weapon hidden in plain sight. "You're a maid," he said. But it didn't sound like an insult. It sounded like a question. "Who exactly are you?" "Maya Thompson." The room pulsed with tension, the kind that made the walls lean in. Maya stepped back. "I didn't mean to overstep. Please forget I said anything. I'll leave." "You're not going anywhere." He turned toward the hallway. "Everyone out," he barked. Footsteps scrambled instantly. Doors shut. The house fell silent. Except for her. Jeffrey faced her again, coat sliding off his shoulder, eyes darkening with something she couldn't name. "Explain," he said. There was no escaping now. Maya drew in a breath that felt like a confession. "When I was in law school, I interned at a firm connected to the Grayson Syndicate. They used clauses like this to trap small developers. And when I reported it, they destroyed me." Jeffrey's expression shifted, surprise first, then something sharper. "You were a lawyer." "Almost," she whispered. "Not long enough to matter." Jeffrey stepped closer, voice low. "Clearly, you mattered enough for someone to ruin." Her breath caught. He looked down at the contract again, then back at her. "You just saved me from signing my life away. Tell me, why would a woman who's been crushed by the world bother warning a man like me?" Her answer slipped out before she could filter it. "Because I know what it looks like when someone is walking into a trap with no idea they're about to lose everything." Silence. Heavy. Electric. Jeffrey studied her like he was seeing her for the first time, not as a maid, but as something far more dangerous. A mind that had survived destruction. A woman who noticed what 10 lawyers did not. A threat or an ally. Finally, he spoke. "Maya Thompson," he murmured, voice low. "I don't know who you used to be." He stepped closer. "But I'm beginning to realize you're not who you pretend to be now." Her pulse thundered. "Tomorrow morning," he said, folding the contract. "You'll meet me in my study at 8. You're going to walk me through every trap you see, every angle, every lie written into this agreement." Maya blinked. "Sir, I'm not qualified." "You just proved you're more qualified than the people I pay 6 figures. A beat. And I don't repeat myself." Her breath caught in her chest. Jeffrey moved past her toward the door but paused. His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "You may have just saved my empire, Maya, but you also changed your place in this house." She stared after him, heart pounding. "What place is that?" she asked quietly. He glanced back at her, eyes unreadable. "Not a maid?" Then he walked out, leaving the door open behind him, an invitation or a warning. She couldn't yet tell. But one thing was certain. Her past had just collided with her present, and nothing in the Hastings estate would ever be the same. The study door thudded shut behind the last guard, leaving only Jeffrey and Maya in the dim, amber-lit room. Shadows from the fireplace danced across the walls, painting the Mafia boss in molten gold and the maid in trembling silhouettes. Jeffrey folded his arms, studying her like a puzzle he suddenly needed to solve. "Start talking," he said quietly. "People don't see clauses like that unless they've lived with one." Maya swallowed hard. Her apron was still dusted with flour from the kitchen. Her hands smelled of lemon polish. She looked like someone who belonged anywhere but in a criminal empire's inner circle. But her eyes, they carried knowledge, pain, and something sharp enough to cut through steel. "I didn't mean to pry," she said, voice barely above a breath. "I know my place." "Tonight," Jeffrey replied, stepping closer. "Your place is right here. Explain how you found what the attorneys missed." She shook her head. "Sir, please, I don't want any trouble." "That clause almost killed me," he snapped. "If you're the reason it didn't, I need the truth." Silence stretched tight, trembling, necessary. Finally, Maya set the contract down, fingers lingering on the paper as if it were a ghost from her past. I wasn't always a maid. Jeffrey's brow lifted. I assumed as much. I studied law, she confessed. Graduated top of my class. I was supposed to join a major firm until Cassandra Royce happened. Jeffrey's head tilted, the name catching his interest. The Cassandra Royce? Maya nodded. She was my mentor. And the person who destroyed me. Jeffrey leaned against the desk, watching her carefully. How? The story spilled out, not rushed, not rehearsed, but painfully honest. Cassandra had taken Maya under her wing, praising her brilliance, her integrity, her eye for detail. But when Maya discovered the firm was laundering money through offshore shell agreements, Cassandra turned on her. She stole my research, Maya said. Framed me for malpractice. The board believed her. She had power. Connections. I had nothing. And your license? Jeffrey asked. They suspended it. Then blacklisted me. No one would hire me, not even as a paralegal. She forced a small, brittle smile. So I cleaned houses and waited tables. Less risk. Fewer lies. Jeffrey didn't interrupt. He listened, really listened, in a way men like him rarely did. When she finished, silence draped the room like velvet. He studied her again, but now with a different gaze, not curiosity, but recognition. You read this entire contract in seconds, he murmured. You caught a trap that would have put me 6 feet under, and you did it without thinking. Maya lowered her eyes. It's a habit. It's a gift, Jeffrey corrected. And it means you're the only person I trust to explain every line of this. The air shifted between them, something charged, dangerous, undeniable. Maya tried to step back, but Jeffrey's presence filled the room, steady and unyielding. Victor Morelli is behind this, isn't he? She whispered. Jeffrey's jaw clenched. You recognized his style? That clause is his signature. He used the same structure in a laundering case, the one that got me fired. Jeffrey's expression darkened like a storm rolling over the city. Morelli wasn't just a rival, he was a predator in a tailored suit. And now he tried to bury a blade in Jeffrey's back. Explain it to me, Jeffrey said, sliding the contract toward her. Every hidden trap, every landmine. For the next hour, they stood shoulder to shoulder at the desk. Maya pointing out buried clauses, Jeffrey asking precise questions. The closer they leaned over the paper, the more their breaths mingled, warm against each other's skin. The tension wasn't accidental, it was magnetic, electric. Her voice stayed calm, clinical, but her hands trembled when his brushed hers by accident. Jeffrey noticed. He didn't comment, but the faint curve of his lips said he felt it too. By the time they reached the final page, his expression had gone cold and lethal. This isn't a deal, Maya whispered. It's a takeover. Sign it, and Morelli gets full operational control of your foreign accounts. That explains the sudden generosity, Jeffrey muttered. The man never gives anything unless he's pulling strings. She pointed to another clause on the bottom. This one is worse. It forces liquidation if you don't meet the terms. You'd lose half your assets within 6 months. Jeffrey let out a low, disbelieving laugh. He really thought I'd sign this. He thought your lawyers wouldn't catch it, Maya corrected. And he was right, Jeffrey said bitterly. But you did. Maya bowed her head. I'm sorry, sir. I shouldn't have. He lifted her chin gently. You saved my life tonight. Her breath caught. He dropped his hand quickly, trying to hide the impulse, but the damage was done. The moment had already changed something between them. Then, a vibration rattled the desk. Jeffrey's phone lit up. Unknown sender. One new message. He opened it. His jaw tightened, his eyes iced over. Maya saw the text over his shoulder and felt all the warmth leave the room. Sign the deal, or I sign your death warrant. V. Morelli. Jeffrey looked up, the message burning in his grip. Maya's pulse quickened. Sir? What are you going to do? Jeffrey Hastings, cold, calculated, always in control, finally spoke, voice low and edged with danger. I'm going to war. By sunrise, every guard, advisor, and lieutenant in Jeffrey Hastings' mansion had heard the rumor. The maid saved the boss's life. By noon, they'd seen the proof. Jeffrey pulled Maya into his inner circle, Not quietly, not subtly. He walked her into the war room, his most restricted floor, like she belonged there. Men who'd spent years earning Jeffrey's trust stared at her as if she had no right to breathe the same air. Among them stood Elias Crane, Jeffrey's right hand, a man carved from suspicion. His cold gaze followed Maya the way a sniper tracked a target. "Boss," Elias said, voice low enough to cut. "We don't know who she is." Jeffrey didn't blink. "I do." Maya swallowed. She didn't feel like she belonged. But Jeffrey's presence beside her anchored her in place. Elias stepped forward. "She shows up out of nowhere. Spots a trap 10 lawyers missed. And we're just supposed to—" "She saved my life," Jeffrey snapped. The room fell silent. Jeffrey rarely raised his voice. When he did, someone usually ended up dead. Elias exhaled slowly, defeated, but not convinced. "Then, I'll keep an eye on her." "You'll keep your distance," Jeffrey corrected coldly. Elias clenched his jaw. "As you wish." And just like that, the lines were drawn. Jeffrey's trust, Elias's suspicion, Maya caught between their worlds. The investigation swallowed their days and devoured their nights. Contracts, bank trails, forged signatures, offshore transactions. Maya chased them all, her fingers flying across documents like muscle memory she had buried long ago. Jeffrey stayed beside her the entire time. He didn't delegate her. He didn't dismiss her. He didn't leave her alone. At 2 a.m., when the rest of the mansion slept, he would bring her tea hot, perfectly sweetened, placed gently by her elbow. "You haven't taken a break," he'd murmur. "And neither have you," she'd answer. He'd smile, just slightly. The kind of smile he never gave his men. She softened him, his anger, his impatience, the relentless storm that lived behind his eyes. And he saw her, really saw her, in a way no one else had since her life fell apart. The way she tucked loose curls behind her ear when she concentrated. The way her voice steadied when she explained something complicated. The way her eyes lit with quiet fire when she uncovered another lie. She didn't realize he watched her more than the documents. And Jeffrey didn't realize he smiled more when she was in the room. By the third night, Maya pushed back from the desk, exhaustion etched into her bones. "Jeffrey, this isn't one trap. It's an entire architecture of traps." He straightened. "Explain." She opened a folder, page after page of interconnected clauses designed to collapse his empire from the inside. "If you'd sign this," she whispered, "you wouldn't lose one company. You'd lose all 12. Within months." Jeffrey's expression hardened. "Morelli doesn't want my money. He wants my name." "He wants you erased," she corrected. "Reputation, assets, legacy, everything." Jeffrey exhaled slowly, the air thick with danger. Then he's at war with the wrong man. But Maya wasn't looking at the documents anymore. She was staring at Jeffrey, at the man behind the empire. The way the light hid his scars. The way power clung to him. The way he carried the world with a quiet, brutal grace. She shouldn't have cared. But she did. On the fourth night, Maya found something she hadn't expected. A hidden digital archive tied to Cassandra Royce. "This isn't about you," she murmured. "It's about her." Jeffrey looked up. "Cassandra? I found other victims," Maya whispered. 7 women who were destroyed the same way I was. She scrolled through their files, lawyers, analysts, interns, each one framed, silenced, erased. "Cassandra didn't ruin one career," Maya said softly. "She ran a system." Jeffrey's jaw tightened. "Then we'll dismantle it." Maya blinked. "We? You don't think I'm letting you do this alone, do you?" he said, voice softer than she'd ever heard it. She turned away quickly, hoping he hadn't noticed the warmth rising in her cheeks. But he had. Hours later, long after midnight, Maya froze. Her eyes locked onto a signature, one she knew by memory. "Jeffrey," she whispered, "you need to see this." He moved beside her, close enough that the air between them shifted. She pointed to the document on the screen. "This contract. This is the first case Cassandra ever handled. It's the pattern she used for every victim." Jeffrey's eyes narrowed. And the signatory on the other end." She swallowed. Her hands trembled. "It's Victor Morelli." Jeffrey's expression sharpened like a blade. But then, Maya clicked the next page, and both of them went still. A second signature. Recognizable, familiar, unmistakable. Jeffrey Hastings. His breath stopped. "What is this?" he demanded. Maya whispered, "Sir, Cassandra and Morelli worked together on a contract you signed years ago." Jeffrey stepped back, shock flickering through his controlled facade. She looked at him, heart pounding. "Jeffrey, they didn't start coming after you today. They started years ago." Maya always knew danger was close in Jeffrey Hastings' world, but she never expected danger to come for her. It happened on a rainy Friday night. She stepped out of the mansion gate to catch her breath, the storm cooling her heated thoughts after hours of investigating Morelli's old contracts. A black SUV rolled toward her. Slow, silent, too silent. Maya's stomach dropped. The door yanked open. Two men reached for her. She didn't even have time to scream, but a gunshot tore through the night. Then another. Then 3 more. Maya flinched as one kidnapper dropped in front of her, a neat bullet through his shoulder. The SUV's tires exploded next, forcing the driver to lose control and skid across the pavement. And through the smoke and chaos, Jeffrey stepped out of the shadows. Drenched in rain, gun steady in his hand, jaw locked with murderous calm. "Maya," he growled, grabbing her and pulling her against him. "Did they hurt you?" I'm fine," she whispered, shaking violently. But he wasn't listening. He was too busy glaring at the men, trying to crawl away. He fired 2 shots into the air. The entire street went still. Jeffrey's voice was low and lethal. "Send this message to Morelli," he said. "If he ever touches her again, or even thinks her name." He stepped closer. Gun pressed under one attacker's chin. "He dies." The man nodded frantically, scrambling back into the ruined SUV before speeding away. Maya stared at Jeffrey, breath caught in her throat. "You saved my life," she whispered. Jeffrey holstered the gun and turned to her fully eyes. Dark, intense, furious, and scared, all at once. "No," he corrected. "I protected what's mine." Inside the mansion, Maya finally collapsed. Her knees gave out. Her breath came in tight, painful shivers. All the strength she'd been holding together cracked. Jeffrey caught her before she hit the floor, lifting her effortlessly into his arms. He carried her to his office and closed the door. "Talk to me," he whispered. She shook her head. "I can't." "You can," he said, kneeling in front of her like she was royalty, not a maid, not invisible, not forgotten. "It's time, Maya." Her lips trembled, and then she broke. Words tumbled out, messy, raw, shaking. How Cassandra ruined my career. How she forged evidence. How she paid witnesses. How she told me no one would ever believe a black woman over her. How I begged for one chance to defend myself one. And she laughed. Tears streamed down Maya's cheeks. I lost everything. My reputation, my future, my identity. I became invisible. Jeffrey reached up and gently took her face in his hands. "Maya," he whispered. "You were never invisible." Her breath hitched. He stroked her cheek, voice rough with emotion. "I fell for you the moment you saved me." Her heart stuttered. "And every day since, watching your brilliance, your courage, your fire." His thumb traced her jaw. "You didn't remind me of who I was. You reminded me of who I should be." Tears welled again, but this time they were different, soft, ache-filled. When he leaned in, he didn't claim her. He asked. His lips hovered a breath from hers. "Maya, tell me to stop." She didn't. Instead, she lifted her hand and touched his cheek with trembling fingers. "I don't want you to stop," she whispered. Their lips met, slow at first, gentle, charged. But when she exhaled against him, Jeffrey deepened the kiss, pulling her close like he'd waited months for this moment. The rain outside hammered the windows. Thunder rolled. But inside Jeffrey's office, everything was quiet, warm, certain, and Maya realized she wasn't alone anymore. Hours later, after the storm settled and Jeffrey refused to leave her side, Maya returned to the documents on the desk. She wiped her eyes. Focused, determined. One file kept bothering her, a small, overlooked document from Cassandra's archive. She opened it, and the breath rushed out of her lungs. "Jeffrey," she whispered, "I think I found it." He came beside her instantly. "What is it?" Maya laid out the pages, connections, signatures, timestamps, all pointing to the same conclusion. "This is the final proof. The missing link. Cassandra and Morelli aren't just connected. They ran a full criminal scheme together. Bribery, fraud, coercion, false contracts, everything." Jeffrey's eyes widened. "We can destroy them," Maya whispered, voice trembling with emotion. "Legally, completely, and publicly." Jeffrey exhaled slowly. "So we win." But Maya shook her head. Her voice dropped. "No. We only win if we do it fast." She pointed to the last page, her heart pounding. "This file expires in 48 hours. After that, the evidence becomes inadmissible, automatically purged from the system." Jeffrey froze. "What happens if we miss the deadline?" Maya looked up at him with fear in her eyes. "Then Morelli wins, Cassandra walks free, and everything we've found vanishes." Jeffrey's jaw clenched. "Then we don't have 48 hours, he said. "We have 47. Maya held his gaze. 2 worlds. 1 war. No way out, except victory. Sunrise painted the city gold the next morning. A strangely peaceful color for the war Maya was about to start. She walked into the federal prosecutor's office with a folder that could burn empires. Jeffrey walked beside her, not as a mafia boss, but as her protector, her witness, her proof that all monsters don't stay monsters. Inside the conference room, the entire federal team sat waiting, sharp suits, sharper eyes, and quiet suspicion, until Maya began to speak. She laid out the contracts first, page by page, clause by clause. The traps, the forgeries, the signatures Cassandra stole, the women she destroyed. She showed timestamps, bank trails, communications, hidden financial channels. The prosecutors leaned forward. Then the 7 women entered. Women who had been silenced. Women Cassandra erased. Women Maya found and brought back to life. One by one, they testified. Voices shaking, hands trembling, truth echoing against the walls like the sound of chains breaking. By the time the last woman finished her testimony, the lead prosecutor whispered, "Miss Thompson, this is airtight." Maya exhaled, tears burning her eyes. Jeffrey's hand brushed hers beneath the table, a quiet, grounding reassurance. The prosecutor wasn't done. "This isn't just fraud. This is RICO-level conspiracy." He closed the folder with finality. "We'll take it from here." Maya nodded. But the war wasn't over. Not yet. While Maya dismantled Cassandra, Jeffrey struck at Morelli. Not with violence, not with gunfire, but with the very thing Morelli never expected: the law. Jeffrey walked into the city's financial board and dropped documents that exposed Morelli's attempt to seize his empire through fraudulent contracts. He filed injunctions. He froze Morelli's accounts. He reclaimed every asset that had been threatened. By the time the board finished reviewing Maya's analysis, one truth became unavoidable. Victor Morelli was finished. "Mr. Hastings," the chairman said, "your empire is fully restored, legally and publicly." Jeffrey nodded, but his jaw tightened. He wasn't satisfied. Not until Maya was safe. Not until Morelli was done. Everything came together in a single afternoon. Police squads, federal agents, news vans, helicopters, citywide chaos. Cassandra Royce was arrested first, ripped straight out of her glass office, still screaming that she was innocent. But the cameras saw everything. Her forged signatures, her offshore accounts, her secret deals with Morelli. The press devoured it. A top attorney running a fraudulent empire? A system built to destroy innocent women? A whistleblower Maid exposes it all? It was the perfect storm. Then came Morelli, dragged out of his mansion in handcuffs, surrounded by reporters shouting questions he could no longer hide from. Jeffrey stood on a nearby rooftop, watching the scene unfold. Maya stepped up beside him. "You did it," she whispered. He shook his head. "We did it." As Morelli was shoved into the police van, Jeffrey finally allowed himself to breathe. "End of an era," he murmured. Maya looked at him, soft and proud. "It's the beginning of a better one." By nightfall, every news station had the same headline. Maid exposes criminal empire, saves billion-dollar tycoon. Interviews played clips of Maya's testimony. Photos showed her walking beside federal agents. Articles praised the maid with the mind of a lawyer. And Jeffrey watched all of it with a quiet pride he didn't bother hiding. When Maya found him in his office, he stood from his chair instantly. "You restored something I thought I lost forever," he said softly. She blinked. "What?" He stepped closer, gaze warm. "Honor." Maya felt her heart stumble. He held her hands gently. "You gave me back my name, Maya. My legacy. My future. I can never repay you, but I'll spend every day trying." Emotion tightened her throat. She didn't know how to answer, so she simply leaned into his chest, letting the moment settle around them. Outside, the world was celebrating her, but inside Jeffrey's arms, she felt something far deeper than victory. She felt seen, wanted, home. The next morning, her phone exploded with messages. CNN wanted to interview her. BBC wanted her story. 3 major law firms wanted to hire her instantly, full salary, full benefits, full respect. She looked at the screen, breath-catching. Jeffrey walked in quietly. "You're in demand," he said with a small smile. Maya swallowed. "I don't even know what I want next." Jeffrey stepped closer, eyes soft. "Then we'll figure it out," he said. "Together." But before she could respond, her phone vibrated again. A message, unknown number. One sentence. "You don't know me, but you destroyed someone very important to me. And now, I'm coming for you." Maya froze. Jeffrey saw her face pale. "What happened?" he demanded. She turned the screen toward him. His expression darkened instantly. "Maya," he whispered, "this isn't over. But victory never feels loud." That night, after the press, after the prosecutors, after the world suddenly knew her name, Maya stood in Jeffrey's penthouse, looking out over a city that once swallowed her whole. She expected to feel overwhelmed. Instead, she felt ready. The 7 women toasted her with trembling hands, calling her the woman who ended the monsters. Prosecutors asked for interviews. Partners at prestigious law firms sent offers that could change anyone's life. But none of it mattered the way one moment did. Jeffrey walked toward her not as the feared kingpin, not as the man who controlled half the city's power structures, but as someone finally unmasked. Human, strong, proud of her. He placed a small black key in her hand. Not heavy, but meaningful enough to shift the air around them. "Not a ring," he murmured, voice low, steady. "Not yet. I don't deserve that. Not until I earn a quieter life, and you decide I'm part of it." He touched her hand, closing her fingers around the key. "But this means come home with me. Stay with me. Build something with me." Her breath caught, because for the first time, someone wasn't choosing her for convenience, or silence, or service. He was choosing her for power, the power she grew into, the fire she never realized she had, and she chose him back. The city lights reflected in his glass windows as he kissed her slow at first, then with the certainty of a man who had waited too long. Not acclaim, not dominance, just connection. Respect, layered with devotion. Later that week, Maya Hastings, formerly just a maid, signed her new title. General Counsel, Hastings Enterprises. The most powerful woman in Chicago, in both the world above the law and the world beneath it. The 7 women formed a foundation, the Royce Justice Initiative, funded by Jeffrey's money, led by Maya's brilliance. Protection, legal aid, sanctuary. Jeffrey wrapped his arms around her from behind as she reviewed the first case file. "You're not invisible anymore," he whispered into her hair. "You're unstoppable." She smiled, not the shy, careful smile of who she used to be, but the fierce, self-assured one of a woman who rebuilt herself from ashes. Chicago had new rulers now, not tyrants, not monsters, a man who found his honor again, and a woman who discovered hers for the first time.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.